going on YouTube? It's Craig, certified technician here at ApplianceVideo.com, and today I have this amazing Whirlpool top-load washing machine, and I'm going to show you how to check the fault codes as well as go through all the different operational diagnostics that this machine has. But before we get too far, make sure you hit the like and subscribe, and without further ado, let's jump right in. Prior to going into diagnostics, I'm going to tell you the sequence of steps we're going to take when going into this machine. So first, we're going to bring up the fault codes to see what problems you could have. Then, we're going to go through an automatic test cycle so you can listen for any type of noises, followed by a manual test cycle and then a UI test so that you can activate individual components. And then, last but not least, we'll do a calibration cycle. To enter diagnostics, you'll turn your knob to the center position, typically normal on this machine. And then you'll want to run it almost like a safe and go left, right, 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 left, right. And if you have successfully entered diagnostics, the LEDs on the bottom should blink. Then to advance to different portions of diagnostics, you will use the center dial to the right. So let's go ahead and turn the center dial to the right, and then your done LED will illuminate, showing you that we are going to the fault portion of diagnostics. And in order to enter it, you'll simply want to press start. Once you press this, the LEDs will illuminate, and then you will turn the jogger to the right one more time to show the most recent error code. This can store a couple of different codes inside the system, and every time you turn it to the right, it will show the next error code that's in the system. So let's go through a couple of them that you may find. The first error code that you may find would be an FOE2 for an over SUDS error code. And you'll see on the screen when this error code eliminates, it flashes in two different sequences. So during this error code, you will see the fill and sensing light flash, it will turn off, followed by the spin light flashing one time and then turn off. This is for an FOE2. Now the over SUDS error code a lot of times has to do with soap usage. Did you know that these machines do not require a whole lot of soap? Typically, whenever I go into a customer's house, I'll find that they're using that entire cap. You really want to cut down, especially if it's throwing this error code. There could be an FOE4 for a high water temperature in the rinse cycle. A lot of times with this error code, what I find is that the hot and cold water lines are reversed. And since this unit uses cold water only to rinse, if you have that hot water plugged into the cold water valve, it's going to throw this error code. So check your water lines. There could be an FOE5 for an off-balance load. Very common error code with this one usually is because clothes have gotten to one side of the drum. If you push your drum back and forth, you'll notice that it's on a hanging suspension. So that means it's very, very easy for this thing to go off balance if your clothes inside are uneven. So if this is your error code, rearrange your clothes, try it again, and I bet it works. There is F1E1 for a main control fault, F1E2 for a motor control fault, or an F2E1 for a stuck key. These are all problems usually with the main control board. There's an F2E3 for a switch mismatch, F2E1 pressure system fault, F3E2 inlet water temperature fault. We have four very common error codes with the F5E1 for lid switch fault, F5E2 for lid lock fault, F5E3 for lid unlock fault, and an F5E4 for lid not opened between cycles. If you have any of these four error codes, I assure you the problem is more than likely within the lid switch. See, a lot of customers forget that this lid locks, and they'll try to open up that door forcefully, thus causing problems to the lid switch and giving you all types of error codes that will prevent this unit from running. You may see an F7E1 for a basket speed fault, a F7E5 for a shifter fault, F7E6 for a motor fault, and an F7E7 for a motor unable to reach targeted RPM. All four of these error codes typically reside within the shifter underneath, the belt, or the capacitor. These mean that this unit is not able to reach a targeted RPM, and this could be any one of these components that are bad. So if you do have these error codes, lift it up, do a good visual inspection, and see if you can't find one of those broken parts. There's an F8E1 for a long or no fill, If you have this error code, I would take your water lines off the back of the machine and make sure that you do not have any type of calcium deposit on your inlet valve screens. If you do, try to clean it off. Make sure your water has high pressure going into the machine, plug it back in, and it should take care of your issue. FAE3 for an overflow condition. A lot of times if you have this, you'll find that your water valve is stuck open. So whenever you have your machine off, it'll probably start filling. If this is the case, you more than likely need a new water inlet valve. There is FAE5 for hot and cold reversed. You have an F9E1 for a long drain. This error code is a horrible one because it always causes messes. Usually when you have this, the machine is full of water and it says that it can't drain. And a lot of times I find that there's a sock stuck inside the pump. So get that water out of the machine, tip the machine back, make sure you put a ton of towels down, take off that main drain line and see if there's anything stuck inside the pump. If there's something stuck, take it out and start it back up, you're probably good to go. But if not, you'll probably need to replace that drain pump. Of course, that's going to finish up the fault codes on this machine. Go ahead and press and hold the start button at the end of this so that you can clear any fault codes that you do have inside the system, and then we're going to start out fresh again. What I want you to do is go to the turn dial, make sure it's on normal, turn it left, right, 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 left, right. Wait for those LEDs to flash showing you that you have entered tech mode. The next test we'll do is an automatic test mode, and in order to do this, you'll simply want to turn the dial until it goes to the spin only option and press start. This lasts just a couple of minutes and it's going to turn on your lid switch, and then it's going to pour hot and cold water inside the machine and then the mixing valve. Followed by, it's going to turn on your shifter so that it can do an agitation, drain the water, and then go through spin. And during all of these component tests, I want you to listen for noises. This is the easiest way to find out what's wrong with the machine. Obviously, if it's going through a fill portion, listen to see if you hear water. If it's trying to agitate, see if you hear that wash plate moving the water inside. Once it's draining, make sure the water is going out of the machine. Make sure you do not hear anything inside the drain pump. And finally, once it goes through spin, make sure it's hitting a targeted RPM. Make sure that that drum's spinning around and that you do not hear any grinding noises. Once this portion is done and we want to go through the manual test mode, go ahead and exit it out. At the very end, it will give you a done light, but I highly recommend just holding in the start button to cancel it all out and then going back into tech mode so that we can enter the manual test mode. The manual test mode LEDs are going to be spin and done. So once we're in tech mode, turn it over until the spin and done lights are illuminated, press start, and then we have entered manual test mode. But you'll notice that all the LEDs turn off. Now, if you press start one more time, this is going to activate the lid lock, and you do need to do this in order to advance further in these steps. Once the lid has locked, in order to jump to the next portion, you want to turn the turn dial. Every time you press it, it will toggle on a different portion of the manual test mode. In order to activate that sequence, you simply press the start button. So the first thing that's going to come up is going to be the cold water valve. We'll turn that on and press start. Listen for the cold water to come in and press start again once it's done. Followed by the hot water valve. Go ahead, turn that jogger over, make sure the hot water portion is eliminated, and press start. Let the hot water come in, press it again in order to go out of it. And now let's go through the other portions of the test. The next 4 LEDs that are going to pop up in the manual test mode are all reserved for future development. So we are going to skip past until we get to where the rinse, spin, and done LEDs are illuminated, and then we are going to press start, and this is for a drain cycle. Obviously, we need water in the machine in order for this drain cycle to work, but you've probably already put water in the machine by testing out the hot and cold valves. So during this test, make sure that water is going to exit in a good speed, and make sure you do not hear any grinding or clicking noises coming from your drain pump. Once you're done with it, go ahead and press start one more time so that we can exit the drain sequence and move further into the steps. The next test is reserved for future development, so we'll go ahead and jump down to where the wash and done lights are illuminated and press start for a low spin test. Once you're done with this, press start one more time and jump forward to where the wash and spin lights are illuminated and press start one more time. This is a high spin test. During this high and low speed spin test, we're just listening for noises. Listening to see if that drum is spinning good and making sure that we do not have any grinding noises underneath. The next 2 tests are our agitation tests. We have a gentle agitation first, followed by a heavy agitation. During these agitation cycles, you want to make sure that it's actually switching to agitate and not trying to turn the drum. Listen for any type of grinding noises to ensure that that shifter is working properly and that the system sounds okay. Of course, this is the last portion of the manual test cycle. Let's get out of diagnostics one more time by holding that start button for about 5 to 10 seconds and going back in by turning that turn dial left, right, 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 left, right until the lights illuminate. The next test that we'll want to go to is the UI test mode. And you can activate this by turning the dial until the rinse and spin LEDs are illuminated and pressing start. Upon entering the UI test, all of your LEDs will turn on. And of course, each dial has a different LED that will turn off when you turn it. So let's start from left to right and start to turn these dials to make sure that the LEDs turn on and off as they should. This will indicate that these dials are working properly. Go through the whole system, turn each one a couple of times to make sure every single one is working, and then if everything's working fine, in order to exit this test, again, simply press and hold the cancel button until we are out. So we've ran through our faults, did all the different testing we can do on this unit and replaced a part. But Whirlpool advises anytime you replace a part to go ahead and calibrate the machine. To calibrate it, make sure you are in diagnostics and turn the jogger over till the rinse LED illuminates and press start. This is going to take around 5 minutes and you want to make sure that no clothes are in the drum and that the door is closed when it's running through this. At the very end, the done LED will illuminate and you can press start in order to clear it. And this will wrap up diagnostics on this washer. Once you're finally done with everything, make sure you unplug the machine for about 5 minutes and plug it back in to fully reset it. If you do need your tech manual, you can obtain it by either going to the manufacturer's website or posting it in the repair help section on ApplianceVideo.com. YouTube, if you find this information helpful, do me that solid, like and subscribe, and as always, I'll see you next time.